Even Will Smith, I think, admits that he had gotten in over his head by the time Wild Wild West came out.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Hey, that was my Canadian hello.
There you go. There you go. We're getting really multinational now.
I just realized when you started the intro, I didn't research a foreign hello today. So
Hey, buddy.
My mind went straight to Canada.
You're not my buddy, guy.
We apologize for Bryan Adams.
And for music video sends Barrett Share.
Hello.
Yeah, there you go. And today we're going to be continuing our series of Best of the Years We've Been Alive, and today it's 1997.
Do you like apples?
When you absolutely, positively got to kill every motherfucker in the room, except no substitutes.
You make me want to be a better man.
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
I wouldn't trade places with Edmund Exley right now for all the whiskey in Ireland.
I'd like to take his face off.
Yeah, baby! Stop breaking the law, asshole!
Oh, yeah.
1997
Yeah.
is very top heavy.
Yes.
It has a lot of, this is going to be tough.
It is. And I was researching this thinking, this is going to test my convictions.
Yeah.
Because I'm on record saying Jackie Brown is better than Pulp Fiction.
Yep.
And we voted Pulp Fiction the best movie
We
of
did.
1993.
Yep.
But to be fair to you, you didn't vote Pulp Fiction.
You're right. But I think that means Jackie Brown has to be really high on my list, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and talk about not only the number one movie as far as box office, but the one that actually ended up winning Best Picture and will not win here today, Titanic.
A big boat.
Yes, a big boat. I like Titanic.
Yeah.
It was not nearly as good as some of these movies we're going to be talking about.
No.
It was just a major achievement, and it was a phenomenon, and it was hard for the Academy to pick against it.
When you saw this ship break apart and sink, that was a spectacle we had never seen.
Oh, yeah.
Ever.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is because now he's gone the other direction these days with Avatar, but a lot of that was practical, right? I
Yeah.
think we've even mentioned before, he built a huge Titanic replica to shoot this shit. And you watch it a second, third time, and you start to see some of the melodrama with Billy Zane and some of the, I guess, really cheesy cliche characters and whatnot. But I still enjoy watching it because I think Leo and Kate are pretty magnetic.
Yeah.
And the spectacle still wows me today.
Oh, yeah. And that score is iconic, man. Everybody knows that it was turned into the Celine Dion My Heart Will Go On. But it was great.
This is, it still has some shitty digital effects in it. Like,
sure does.
Especially when they're panning over the boat.
Yeah.
And it's like there's people down on the boat, and those things, they look like video game characters.
like weebles.
They don't
Yeah.
have fingers or
But when it gets to the money of it,
Yeah.
it's pretty awesome. Titanic was the last movie I saw in movie theaters that had a long run.
God, this was unprecedented.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure there was anything. I mean, I guess when movies used to stay in theaters for 6 to 8 months as a regular thing, this kind of thing happened. But this movie made 20 to 40 million per weekend for like 4 months.
It never came out with that huge amount. Like, it wasn't like, oh, it set all these opening weekend records or anything like that. It was just constantly making 20 million every week.
How did it do that?
Oh, it was girls going back
It
over
was,
and over and
if
over.
you asked some of the people coming in, and they're 13 and 14-year-old girls, they would say, this is my 8th time watching this movie.
Yeah.
You don't, if you come out with a movie on December 17th, 18th, 19th, like what Star Wars Force Awakens did earlier last year, you get that there's no competition in the next month at all. January, you get the holidays, you get January, then this movie got it all over again for Valentine's Day and all this other type of stuff. It was just the perfect mix. It was supposed to come out in the summer of 1997. Yeah. They moved it to this. If it had come out in the summer, it would not have been the same deal.
Different story.
It just made its money because it got a very fortunate release date. Kind of like Force Awakens did. Yeah. It was supposed to come out in the summer, ended up hitting this date. And it went on. Now, it did not last as long as Titanic. It had its burn for 3 weeks, and then it stayed a phenomenon, but like it was not like what Titanic was doing, where it would make 20 million. It kept doing that all the way through February. It was crazy.
Well, Josh, my friend and I, Josh, went to see this opening night. This was at the competing theater in my town, so I had to pay to see this. One of the only movies I've ever paid to see back-to-back nights. So Josh and I went opening night. Sold out. I'm in the 5th row. And when they show that old couple cuddling in the bed, blubbered like a baby. I'm not even going to pretend I didn't. Yeah. And so we get back. And of course, at this point, all the TV stations, History Channel, they're all running Titanic shit to try and capitalize on this movie's popularity. And Josh and I were watching one of these documentaries, and he was like, we should go back tomorrow and see it again. And I was like, yeah. And then the film burned on my second viewing, and it took so long. I ended up going up to the competitor's booth to fix their film burn.
Oh, wow.
Because they didn't know what they were doing. Of course, this is a huge print, right?
Yeah.
So they might have been extra scared about, messing with that much film. But it was one of those things where I wanted to see the rest of the movie. I wasn't really trying to help them. But
your selfishness outweighed your corporate loyalty.
All right, so what else do we have in this year?
Good Will Hunting.
Oh my God!
This was the beginning of Matt Damon as we know it.
Yeah.
He had another movie earlier in the year called The Rainmaker, which was
another John Grisham.
Yeah, another John Grisham. Francis Ford Coppola sort of making a semi comeback there. But he wrote the script with Ben Affleck. Of course, how much Ben Affleck contributed to the script has always been debated. But when you see Ben Affleck and what he does with his directing later on, maybe we were assholes for thinking that. But I always heard rumors that this movie was a completely different thing.
Yeah.
And then Gus Van Sant got a hold of it and said, let's just make it more about Will and how he's a troubled kid with a genius brain.
Yeah.
And that's how that movie came about. But love Good Will Hunting.
Well, and this movie introduced me to Elliott Smith. Music-wise, I'm not sure I would ever have come across him without this, and I am so glad it introduced me to him.
Yeah, you didn't have long.
His stuff was great. Robin Williams, this may be my favorite Robin Williams performance.
Yeah.
And I love what this movie does. We talked last week about mental health in movies, right? And so this movie does a couple good things, I think. It shows, I think the therapy sessions are fairly believable. And I love the patience Robin Williams has with Matt Damon's character. That session where he sits there not saying a word and just going to put in his time, and Robin Williams just sits there waiting with him. But the other thing it does well is Stellan Skarsgård's complete lack of regard for mental health. All he cares about is this kid's future and his mind. And that's good intentions. He's trying to help this kid, although he's also trying to reclaim his own failed dreams of glory. But he has no regard for mental health and therapy. He has no patience for it whatsoever. And I think that's a very real thing out there in the real world.
It's a means to an end.
Yeah.
People only, and I'll take the politics out of it, but people will excuse mental health issues until it fits their mindset or their agenda and that kind of thing. Now we need mental health help out there, that kind of thing. And it's the same thing here where it's just like, okay, well, you have to go to therapy. It's court mandated. They go through all those therapists and everything. And he keeps messing with all of them.
Yeah.
And they finally get to Robin Williams. It's like, he's my last chance. And once that does connect, then he's just like, okay, now we're good. But all those performances just are lightning in a bottle. Everything connects perfectly, and the centerpiece is Damon's just breakout performance, start to finish, just badass.
Well, and
he really sells it.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault scene is so fucking cathartic. I mean, you feel that. God, I love this movie so much.
And it's easy to sort of make fun of that because it's such
we've gifted.
And we've done it millions of times too. But like it's funny how that scene, he is basically saying, no, you're not getting it. Like, look, you're kind of shrugging it off and saying, yeah, no, it's not my fault, whatever. No, really believe it. Really believe it is what he's trying to say. He's not trying to say, this is some platitude that you should just kind of like, whatever,
And he couldn't have done that any earlier in that therapeutic relationship. He had to wait until all of that was established, all that history, and that's when he breaks.
And
that's
Matt
awesome.
Damon going, don't fuck with me.
Yeah.
He turns around, you see the tears in his eyes. It's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps right now.
So good. All right. Moving on.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Jackie Brown for a minute. We've talked about Jackie Brown a lot. Chris and I on record adoring this movie.
Yeah, me too.
It didn't make a lot of money.
It didn't.
It didn't seem to please all of the Pulp Fiction fan crowd.
Right. Well, you have to kind of think about the release of this movie was right after Pulp Fiction, and that sort of, the pop culture crowd got glommed onto it.
Yeah, I love how we get to see that final money exchange from three different perspectives. And this is a very Tarantino thing, to go back and show us something again from a different perspective. And it's not like Rashomon where something different happens. Mm-hmm. It's just... It's really entertaining and revealing to see a new wrinkle every time you're watching, whether it's Robert Forster or Robert De Niro or what have you. I really like this movie a lot. I think my favorite scene is when De Niro shoots Bridget Fonda in the parking lot. Where is it? Where'd you leave it? And he just snaps. Mm-hmm. He's just like, boom.
He's like,
boom,
look, just don't say another fucking word, okay? Another fucking word. And this is one of the few movies that if you ask me, is the book better or the movie better, the movie's better.
Yeah.
And this is Elmore Leonard.
Yep.
This isn't like, some asshole writing this book, This is,
Well, he might be an asshole.
Yeah, he could be an asshole. You never know. But I actually read the book and I was like, wow. I mean, this is a good book. I'm really into it, but the movie's so much better. It's insane how it is. And yeah, it's one of those, I love how, Jackie Brown basically is telling the feds one thing.
Yep.
One minor detail is missing from their story.
Yep.
And then one minor detail is missing from the story that she's telling Samuel Jackson or Del Roby. Another guy, he should have got nominated for this, by the way. But because of all the sort of the backlash of Jackie Brown and everything, I think he was overlooked.
Well, Robert Forster was nominated, right?
He was.
Yeah.
He was. But that's one of those they like, the comeback story.
Yeah.
He had this career in the 70s.
Yeah.
Now he's back. So, yeah, he did get nominated for that. But, I feel like Samuel Jackson got overlooked on this.
Oh, for sure. And this is actually, I think Robert Forster and Pam Grier is one of my favorite, most charming slow romances.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
When you see him in the car listening to the music that she played him in her apartment, which he should never have come across as a weird, boring white guy.
Yep.
But he's getting into it and he really likes her. There's so many different facets to this movie for me to enjoy. I can watch it any day.
And I think I'm going to try to avoid spoiling this. This is a movie that people should watch.
Yeah.
But there's a scene between Samuel Jackson and Robert De Niro in a van that is among one of my all-time favorite scenes.
Yeah.
Not only because Ordell Roby is a smart dude and he figures things out, but just the fact that it's the dynamic between these two guys who have done time together and everything, and it's a relationship that is changing because of this heist.
Well, and he's yelling at him about Bridget Fonda in the parking lot, having shot her. He's like, "Is she dead?" And De Niro's like, "Well, pretty much."
Yeah, pretty much.
Tarantino continues his track of resurrecting careers out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Pam Grier was a huge blaxploitation
Yep.
film star, and
who was in Foxy Brown.
Foxy Brown. Yeah, and he really and she was great in those, by the way. But, he really just does the same thing that he did with Travolta with Pulp Fiction, and then it's so hard. It's got to be enormously hard to have this many important characters in a movie, to wrangle that. And I guess it's better to have the story all set out, in a book. But even the screenplay, you have to give equal time to everybody, really make it make sense. And he just nails it, Oh, yeah. Michael Keaton's character ends up coming back in Out of Sight, right?
Next year. Yeah. Well, we have another poster on the wall for a movie we're discussing today. Those tend to usually get voted pretty heavily, but I'm looking right here at the LA Confidential poster.
Oh, my God.
God, what a movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite crime mysteries of all time.
Yes.
If this is sacrilege, but if you were to ask me, would you rather watch LA Confidential or that Jack Nicholson movie with the incest, Chinatown? I might very well choose LA Confidential more often than not.
I'm trying to think of if there is a connection between these two movies too, and I'm trying to remember what it is. It might be the score. It might be Jerry Goldsmith did both.
Interesting.
For Chinatown and LA Confidential. But LA Confidential does tap into that sort of that Chinatown.
Oh yeah.
That Chinatown vibe. I I didn't really know how great. I loved this movie when it came out. I didn't know how really great it was until I read the book. And this is the perfect adaptation of that book. The book, it leaves out like a good section of it that is important actually in the book, but they've tied that together in the movie so well. Like made it basically make one character represent all that stuff that happened in the 50s, because he's talking about, basically it's a stand-in for Walt Disney World, the Dream of Dreamland, and all the stuff that's getting. There's all this stuff involving the cops back in the 50s and the creation of Disneyland, which is called Dream of Dreamland in the book, and all this stuff that's happening with land and L.A. Confidential and everything, and it sort of gets represented by the James Cromwell character.
This movie has an amazing cast.
Yes, it does.
Huge cast. Kevin Spacey,
Russell Crowe. So is this the next thing he did since Virtuosity?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
what a fucking debut then, really. I mean, this is
done a couple things.
It was definitely pre-Gladiator.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But we've got Guy Pearce, Danny DeVito, Kim Basinger, David Strathairn's in this, James Cromwell. It's almost, you almost can't even think of everybody in order to name them all. And what a weird direction Curtis Hanson took after this movie, the director, right? Because he's going to go on to do Wonder Boys, and 8 Mile, neither of which are anything like this.
There's Kim Basinger in 8 Mile, though.
Well, yes, must have liked working with her on this one.
A very different Kim Basinger in 8 Mile.
Yeah, well, and she gets nominated for this. Actually, she wins, I believe, wins for this. That was completely unprecedented for Kim Basinger, because Basinger always played like, the hot chick that was in every movie. Here it's funny because her character is playing a hot chick basically, but her character is, it's a hooker dressed up to look like Rita Hayworth, or what is it? What is her name?
Yes, there's a whole subplot here in this movie about high-priced hookers that have had plastic surgery to look exactly like celebrities, which is something you'd think would be going on everywhere today.
Veronica Lake.
Oh, yeah.
You're right. Lake. Very good.
Yeah. And it's just a complex movie, but it ties it all so well together and everything, and it's so intense, so suspenseful, and much like how we were talking about Lone Star the previous year, it has to tie a whole bunch of stuff that happened in the past with what's happening in the present, and it's got a lot of moving parts, but man, it's just it's so good.
Yeah, I love this movie. What else?
Continuing our top-heavy year, fucking Boogie Nights.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Talk about a large cast.
Talk about a movie I could spend 2 hours talking about.
Yeah.
This cast is killer.
Oh, my God. I mean, Wahlberg. So Mark Wahlberg, starting, I guess, when he did Fear with Reese Witherspoon, like, that was where you first saw, like, Marky Mark can act, like he can actually act.
Yeah.
And then in this movie, he just knocks it out of the park.
Yeah. I will also add that he was in The Basketball Diaries as well, which was another one that sort of kind of told you, but it wasn't a big movie. Not anybody really had seen that by that point. But yeah, he gets in this, and to a lot of people, he's still Marky Mark. Like, not a lot of people saw Fear either.
He's got that blank canvas. Like, he's just wide-eyed at the beginning, and he's just kind of like, okay, he's like, take him out back and blow him, roll a girl. And he's just like, okay, that sounds good. And then he goes back and he has sex with her later on. And like, are we going to fuck? He's like, oh, yes.
He just lights up a cigar or something like that.
It's one of those movies where you could say this cast member totally steals the movie and list 6 or 7 different cast members.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Like Philip Seymour Hoffman in this movie is such a strange mix of creepy and sweet, right? Because he's slowly crushing on Mark Wahlberg, but he's also just a really sweet, nice guy. He doesn't want to like rape him or anything.
No.
But it's still creepy. And God,
nobody plays creepy like Philip Seymour Hoffman.
No. John C. Reilly in this movie is freaking hilarious.
William H. Macy.
William H. Macy.
William H.
Which
Macy.
who comes up with the great line, my wife has an ass in her cock in the driveway.
I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah.
Do you think that was a mistake that was so perfect they kept it in? Or do you think it was scripted for him to be so flustered he gets those words mixed up?
I read something about this.
I think I did too.
And I think he meant to do that. It wasn't in the script that way, but he meant to do that.
Interesting.
But
the character doesn't even realize he's done it.
Right.
And nobody even calls him out. It just moves on to the next scene.
Like I think there was like a Mark Maron thing with Paul Thomas Anderson, and he talked about a lot about this, and maybe it was in there somewhere. I think he actually meant to say this, and it was written in the script the other way.
Interesting.
And but I think he did it that way, and
the way God intended.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to talk about poor bastards? William H. Macy's character in this movie is a poor bastard.
Yes, he
Basically,
is.
the whole movie, his wife's just fucking everybody else but him.
Yeah.
Oh my God. She's like, get out of here. Get back in the house.
And this is a guy who's in the porn industry. You would think if he really wants to get laid, he could do it. He loves his wife. He's feeling betrayed, and Josh, I feel so bad for that guy.
Yeah. But yeah, Boogie Nights sort of goes along the same kind of story beats as Goodfellas does. It starts off with somebody who's kind of a young, innocent type person who then ends up getting into a career that's kind of, it's not illegal to be in porn, but it's kind of an offbeat type of thing to get into. There's a rise of this person, like, there's like the heyday of everything, and then they get into drugs, and then the drugs get sort of
that cocaine, man.
Yeah, exactly. And Paul Thomas Anderson does pull off a lot of like Scorsese-esque type stuff in here too.
That whole party scene.
Yeah.
Just, it's amazing. I mean, going from like Luis Guzman, is that the guy that answers the phone, is like, what are you? No, he's not here. And Julianne Moore, and just cutting to her, knowing that it's her son or daughter, something like that.
Yeah.
That is a really interesting thing about this movie too, is that this is a family. This is portrayed as a family, but how incestuous of a family is this?
Yeah, literally. Well,
literally.
Like Julianne Moore plays Amber Waves. She's the mother of this, but the very first scene for Wahlberg in this is him having sex with her.
Yep.
And then like he has sex with Roller Girl, who's the sister, basically. It's like they have to separate this whole life from what they do outside of shooting and everything. It's just a weird, it makes you sort of like, what's going on with this?
Everything is delivered weird. I mean, when he comes up and the producer meets Dirk Diggler for the first time, and he's like, Jack tells me you've got a big cock. May I see it? He's like, and he looks at it for like maybe 5 seconds, and he's like, thank you.
Yeah.
I've seen enough.
Yeah. But Boogie Nights is a fantastic movie. This is Paul Thomas Anderson just like exploding onto the scene. He had done Hard Eight before this, which I really adore, but this is the movie that really got him into that.
Well, and everybody who likes his movies has a different favorite, but I think this is his best, most completely excellent work.
Yeah.
I like Magnolia, but it's about 25 minutes too long.
Yeah.
I like all of his movies. It's just this one is the most complete. Something was going on in his brain while he was making this, and he just wasn't making mistakes.
And it is the best use of Night Ranger
ever
in a movie with Sister Christian.
Well, and let's not leave this out. The Alfred Molina scene is one of the best things you'll ever see.
So fucking bonkers.
Yeah, it is. There's a little Chinese kid that's like throwing like firecrackers behind. This is a tense situation. Alfred Molina is just kind of like, I'm just kind of a wild, crazy guy or whatever. Don't worry about me. But there's Thomas Jane sitting there going, I want to rob this place and everything. It's like a lot of stuff going on. What else, guys?
Well, Men in Black came out this year.
Yes, it did.
Men in Black, one of my favorite movies. I love this movie. I did not know what to expect when I went into it. The trailers, I guess, gave me a little bit of a clue, but this is one of those movies that just entertained me from beginning to end. It's memorable to me because my brother got married the weekend Men in Black came out, and all of the groomsmen promised to wait. I guess the movie came out the week before the wedding, so we all decided to wait and not see this movie and see it together as part of the bachelor party. So there's this big row of like 8 of us guys sitting there watching this hilarious space alien comedy. Just a really memorable experience for me. That may be why I like it so much. I don't know.
Sort of the affirmation of Will Smith as a huge movie star. Independence Day got him there, but Men in Black solidified it.
Yeah, that was it.
And
He's,
so
he owns the summer from this point.
Yeah, and he's excellent in this. He's so funny. And Tommy Lee Jones is sort of playing off of the character he has built for himself in the 90s at this point in a really funny way and really effective way. And Men in Black is great. Barry Sonnenfeld, who's also having a great decade at this point because he's done Get Shorty, he's done the Addams Family movies. This is just a funny and entertaining movie.
I'll tell you what it was responsible for, unfortunately. It was responsible for Will Smith starting to do theme songs for his own movies.
Yeah.
And fuck a bunch of that. Because after Here Come the Men in Black, and then he did Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
And one of the worst movie theme songs of all
and
time.
then he did Black Suits Coming for Men in Black too.
Yeah. Yep.
Even Will Smith, I think, admits that he had gotten in over his head by the time Wild Wild West came out.
I'm in over my head, man.
Because after he did Men in Black, he really started to get it into his head that, like, you know, hey man, July is Big Willie style. You just sit back and just watch me and be entertained and everything. And then when Wild Wild West came out, it was like, oh, maybe not everybody's into this all the time.
It's Big Willie style.
Yeah. Also in 1997, The Fifth Element.
The Fifth Element. I watched this in the theater with a bunch of friends. Similar experience to what you had, like just people that were just primed for a fun experience.
Yeah.
And this was a fucking fun experience
for sure.
from start to finish.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's you haven't seen anything probably like it since. There's been people trying to imitate it, but it's Chris Tucker, Bruce Willis, the older black dude that plays the president. It seems like he's got marbles in his mouth.
Oh, if you hadn't have said that, I'd have been able to come up with his name.
You had Ian Holm. You had Tricky with
Guy
the bit
from
part
Friday.
on it. Guy from Friday. Yeah, no, it was so much fun.
Yeah, Chris Tucker's dialed up a little too far for me in this movie.
Oh my God!
And I know that's part of his shtick, but if he could have given me Rush Hour Chris Tucker instead of, I guess, Rush Hour Chris Tucker on acid,
Ruby Rod,
then this movie would be almost perfect for me, and even with all the weirdness. But when we get to that last third, it slowly starts to lose me because they give so much screen time to Chris Tucker.
The guy is Tiny Lister, by the way.
Tiny Lister, of
who,
course.
By the way, him and Chris Tucker both in Jackie Brown.
Oh,
and they were both in Friday.
Yeah.
But man, this is a movie like Luc Besson. He wrote it when he was like 15. I think.
Wow.
And he wrote like some 500 page script or something. It's an interesting story to even look that up. But this looks like a 15-year-old kind of like, wouldn't it be cool if we did this and this and this and this, and then just there's really no end to it. But man, is it fun the way it plays out, and Mila Jovovich is like, there's something. I mean, what is it?
She's perfect because she's playful, she's innocent, but you also know that she's the most perfect being ever made.
Yeah.
And so she can do all this crazy shit when she's first introduced. You know, she has this daring escape that, you know, she's got these superpowers basically, but she plays it off so relatably. Everybody wanted her as their girlfriend.
Well, and Luc Besson took her as his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then cast her in Joan of Arc movie that was terrible.
Yeah, terrible. Yeah. But was there some sort of weird thing going on in the 90s where we were growing like little girls in like glass boxes and then giving them superpowers and shit? Because Species was like that too, right? Like Species and Fifth Element. There's probably like 500 other little girls being grown up in boxes.
Morgan.
Movies. Yeah, Morgan.
Well, one of my very favorite comedies of all time, Liar Liar.
Yep.
97. Now, this is, Chris and I talk a lot about working in a theater and stepping into a sold-out show to see the audience react.
Mm-hmm.
This is the single most frequent for me that I ever did that, was Liar Liar, because there's so many moments that were big laughs for me, but especially those outtakes at the end, which are hilarious, but the crowd has already just had a great experience, and then you give them that candy at the end with the outtakes. I walked into the back of this auditorium probably every show.
Mm-hmm.
I love this movie. I think it's probably the best Jim Carrey has to offer. It is manic, but not too manic. It has heart. And everybody around him just compliments what he's trying to do. Everybody's playing straight man, basically, except for Jim Carrey. And my wife and I quote this constantly. You know that. My wife and I bonded over this movie when we were dating. And Chris even drove all the way up to where we live in the suburbs to bring us a poster of Liar Liar. Chris, movie poster owner extraordinaire. And that was our wedding gift, which we still have to this day. I love it. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I could pick any scene and start quoting right now.
Yeah, Liar Liar is definitely the best Jim Carrey has to offer as far as comedy is concerned. I think we're going to get into his best movie later, but Liar Liar is it's got such a great premise to it. It's that perfect little kid wishes on a birthday cake and he gets what he wants, and it's that his dad can't lie, but doesn't know quite what that really means, because that means lying in every little situation that there is possible. Like even the smallest of things he can't lie about,
right?
And that leads to all these little, especially him trying to say that the pen is blue and like he's like sitting there like can't say it at all, and he's just going through all these gyrations. I just wonder how many takes, how much time they spent on him going through all these. The pen is blue. The pen is blue.
I love when he's pitching the new client that he can win her divorce, and he's like, where would Tina Turner be if she'd have rolled over and said to Ike, hit me again and put some stank on it. Rolling down the river, that's where she'd be. He shines in every freaking scene. You could replace everybody in this movie with other actors, and if he does what he does, it's still exactly as effective. Oh man, I don't want to talk about it too much.
No, you're right about it, because we were talking about Ace Ventura and The Mask and Dumb and Dumber and all that stuff earlier. And what he doesn't have in those, and I think those are fine, and I think they're funny and everything, but what he doesn't have is any sort of context, any sort of ground.
Right, like his family and
putting it into, a family context and all that stuff.
Even that moment when he's talking with his wife and he says, I'm a bad father, and just sort of realizes, shit, the only reason I'm able to say that is because it's true. And it's a comedy, but there's still heart in that moment. And I think you're right. I think that's why it makes it elevated above some of the earlier work.
Yeah. Carrey Elways also has one great moment in this when he's trying to be the Claw.
Yeah.
And the Jim Carrey does this thing with his kid that's called the Claw, and it's like something his kid loves because they've always done this together. And he of course Jim Carrey can do what Jim Carrey does, and then Carrey Elways comes in and you hate the Claw, don't you? You really afraid of the Claw?
Oh, the Claw's coming at you. It's gonna get you.
and he keeps doing all these little faces and everything. It's really kind of it's a generous thing for Carrey Elways to do this type of role, because nobody's gonna like this person at all, but he gets everything like you need to do in this role and everything.
Yeah, Jim Carrey gives the baseball stuff to his kid or whatever, and Carrey always is like, great gift, Dad. Jim Carrey's like, thanks, son.
And he's like, hey, enjoy my wife.
I mean, you're right, because Carrey always is a perfectly nice guy. He doesn't do anything wrong in here. He's just trying to be a loving, wannabe husband and stepdad or what have you. But you are made to hate him because he stands in the way of what our protagonist wants.
Actually, a comedy that didn't really do huge amounts of business, but then got a tremendous following on video, then got its mega sequel, Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Austin Powers is really yet another Bond spoof. There had been several before, but never to the point of what Mike Myers does.
He went for it.
He really went for it, and he gets it. He gets the James Bond stuff down so right. Like everything that's ridiculous about Bond movies has got now a comic effect to it.
Yes,
you can look at the Bond movies the same way, but it's not it's not really like what Austin Powers does, where it's just, all this stuff is jokes. The bald evil man who's playing Blofeld, basically, this is Dr. Evil, he's stroking a kitty and all this other type of
and
stuff.
He's got the affectations of Lorne Michaels, too.
Yeah, Lorne Michaels. Yeah, exactly. But this was not a big hit by any means. It made $53 million, probably made a profit. But it really got a following after this, and it spawned two sequels. Yeah, it's very funny.
All of the lines just turned into cliches. Do I make you horny? That kind of thing. But it was really funny.
Super quotable, but the next one with Heather Graham is a box office bonanza.
Yeah, huge movie.
Yeah, I remember you and I were working at Hollywood when, maybe not.
We were, because it came out after Star Wars, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Either just before or after it came out around that time. I think it was after, because I remember seeing the previews for it when I got there, and Star Wars had just opened. But yeah, like it was a unbelievable box office hit. Like I remember when it came out, I was just like, the first one didn't do anything, and I don't remember people really liking that first one. I liked it when it came out, but like I didn't think it was going to get that kind of a treatment. No. Yeah, so, but yeah, good stuff.
Let's stick with comedy and talk about Donnie Brasco.
Yeah, another heavy hitter as far as.
It is in my list of top 6 that I might vote for.
Me too.
Johnny Depp. Now, he kills this, but he is still sort of playing the straight man.
Mm-hmm.
The showier roles are going to people like Al Pacino and Michael Madsen, what have you. And Al Pacino, God, like we talked about before, you've never seen him like this.
Mm-hmm.
He's usually the top guy. He's a badass. He's a boss. And in this, he's old. He never got promoted.
Mm-hmm.
He's running out of money. Nobody really respects him. They give him this big cat as a joke gift. That's just to fuck with him.
Yeah.
You really, really feel for this character, even though he's a bad guy. By the end, when he gets arrested and realizes that Depp double-crossed him, you're just like, wow, he's probably going to kill himself now. He's got nothing left.
I love these movies about undercover agents to where they get so far in. I don't know how much it happens in real life. It may happen all the time.
It has to happen regularly.
But by the time the movie starts and he's Don the jeweler, and Al Pacino or Lefty knows that he's Don the jeweler, and he gets people to vouch for him, the barber, this guy, and he's got to be already embedded in that culture for so long that by the time he meets Al Pacino's character, it goes exponentially.
Yeah,
and he moves up quicker than.
And by the end of the movie, he's changed. He's like there's. His wife is pointing out how much he cusses.
He's one of them, yeah.
Yeah, and there's that scene at the end in the court after he gets his little award in the city office. He's standing looking out the window, and you're just like, well, he's just as defeated as Al Pacino is now. Like, everybody came out of this thing defeated.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
This is a movie that I would swear that if Titanic was not the phenomenon that it was, it would have gotten almost all the spots that Titanic basically took up in this whole thing. Al Pacino and Johnny Depp, some of their best work, does not get nominated in this movie. The only nomination was for the screenplay, which is deserved, but Mike Newell doesn't get director nomination. It's just one Oscar nomination out of this. Everybody, all the critics love this. I think everybody who watched this movie loved this, but it fell by the wayside in 1997 because it was such a big year. But kind of a disappointment when you look back and see, like, these performances were not nominated. Some of the most unnominated performances.
I love that scene where they go to that restaurant and Johnny Depp has a tape recorder in his boot, but they want him to take off their shoes because I think it's a Japanese restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
And he refuses because he can't reveal this, right? But then the consequences of that, where the other gangsters decide, you know what, we're not going to let them tell our Johnny Depp what to do. Let's take this guy in the bathroom and beat him within an inch of his life. Mm-hmm. And Johnny Depp has to be sitting there going, I just basically killed that guy.
Yeah, and he plays it on his face.
Yeah.
Great.
So great.
Also responsible for the forget about it.
Oh, yeah.
It's said, I don't know how many times in this movie, and one of the best scenes in there is when the FBI guys are sitting around, they're like, forget about it. What does it mean? Forget about it? He's like, well, it's like sometimes you say, this pasta is the greatest. It's a forget about it. And sometimes it's like, fuck you, forget about it. And then Paul Giamatti's like, forget about it. Forget about it. Just had to mention Paul Giamatti again.
Yeah. Also in 1997, Life is Beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Another big one. We've talked about it before, but it's, This is just as heart-wrenching but as entertaining all at once type of movies that you can get.
Yeah, it really hit me. And when we do our main topic later, you're going to hear me talk more about Life is Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on for now.
Okay. Also in 1997, David Fincher's The Game.
Yeah. Which
is another great movie. Nobody really watched this movie, but it's a great follow-up to Seven. And it's another instance where a director has made a movie before, and he comes out with his follow-up that might even be just as good. The Game's not better or as good as Seven, but it's close. It's up there.
It's really good.
It's up there, and people just kind of like, nah, I don't want to watch that.
I love The Game, but I will freely admit it has one of the most unbelievable, ridiculous premises known to man.
Yes, it does.
That all of this shit could be orchestrated the way that it is flat out unbelievable.
Yeah.
But if you buy that premise that it could be, it's a really entertaining ride.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is sort of, Michael Douglas doing Michael Douglas stuff. Sort of a play on Michael Douglas because he's always been that wealthy, rich businessman guy. And now he's sort of getting his comeuppance and all of this, So it's a fun play. And Sean Penn.
It's fun.
Nice little, supporting role in this. Penn was kind of an expert at that in the 90s with Carlito's Way and this and everything, and then he would become a little bit more prominent again in the next decade. But love The Game. What else, guys?
Well, Lost World Jurassic Park came out in 97.
Yes, it did.
Big box office hit. I like this more than most Jurassic fans. I don't think it's as good as the first by any stretch, and there are plenty of problems with it, but this has so many winning moments for me. We were just talking yesterday about it, where we've got the cliff scene with the T-Rexes and the raptors through the tall grass chasing the people. And there's enough good stuff here that I keep coming back to it over and over. And then they really fall off the cliff with the third one. But I know people who dismiss Lost World, and I just can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, it you can see the sort of the genius of Spielberg in this in areas, but then he is also in his indulgent phase in this movie. So there's a lot of stuff like, the gymnastics portion of it. There's just the San Diego thing is it's such a bad. I mean, I actually love the part where the T-Rex actually emerges from the ship that crashes. That's a great moment of suspense, even though it makes zero sense. They're like going around, where's the T-Rex? Oh, he somehow got back in the cargo,
and the door was
shut, and all that. And of course, there's the dumbass who's like, let's open the door. And there's because Steven Spielberg loves like those severed limbs and everything. There's like a hand on the steering wheel, like the T-Rex poked his head in there, ate the guy while he's steering the boat.
Left his arm.
I still love his emergence because it's a great scene of suspense and everything. And I'll tell people this, like, it's one of those weird things I did as a projectionist. We had 2 prints of this, and back in 1997, getting 2 prints at our 8-screen theater was like unheard of. And we had this one that was at like 10 o'clock on a weeknight or whatever, and there was nobody in there. And so I walked in, and it's during that scene, and I walked all the way up to the screen and looked up at the screen, and like that, the T-Rex's jaws were like just big as life coming down on me, and I was like, oh wow, this is a freaking unbelievable scene. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's got a lot of good stuff, but a lot of bad. What else in 1997, guys?
Another big Ben Affleck movie, Chasing Amy.
Yep.
Yeah. Kevin Smith.
I think this is maybe Kevin Smith's best film.
Easily.
I think we all think that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
then
awesome.
I will not state it as though it is some daring opinion.
It obviously had some it had some controversy because it is a lesbian converting.
Yep.
Even though, yes, she in the past she had dabbled in guys, but like it sets her up as this. I like girls, and that's who I like, and that's the way it's going to be. And then because he's Ben Affleck, he's somehow able to change her. Now, it's still, even that, what I just said is probably controversial because you can't narrow anybody in a box. But I still feel like the movie's saying she's a lesbian and that she likes girls only, and then she gets changed.
Well, I feel like Joey Lauren Adams makes this movie.
Yes, she does.
She's so magnetic,
she's
and
awesome.
charming and cute. And if you, the viewer, aren't sort of drawn to her, I don't think this movie works.
Yeah.
But I like it. It's the one of Smith's movies that I've seen the most. And yeah, Jason Lee is in this.
Yeah, Jason Lee's so good.
Yeah, his character is probably one of the most, outside of like Jay and Silent Bob, one of the most enduring characters that you can actually relate to, because he's an angry son of a bitch. He's an inker, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But he's definitely, he is in love with Holden. That's the whole thing. He agrees to have the threesome at the end. But he's got more meat on the bone than certainly of any Kevin Smith's early characters. Like Dante doesn't have a whole lot, to offer as a character. But he's very, very memorable, and Ben Affleck's character is really good too.
Yeah, I know by the very fact that I brought it up, it makes it sound like I think that's a big deal in the movie that she's converted and all that. I don't actually. It doesn't bother me as far as watching the movie and enjoying it and everything is concerned. And I think Ben Affleck has that great speech that finally gets her, to finally say, "All right, I do love you." That he's got that. Imagine this was kind of a hard movie for Kevin Smith to make too, because he had dated Joey Lauren Adams.
Oh yeah,
and they had broken up and everything when this movie was being made. So that was, that's kind of an interesting wrinkle that I'm sure he's talked about millions of times. I've just never heard the story on it, So
yeah, and the other thing about this is that in each of the Kevin Smith movies that have Jay and Silent Bob, he always has a time where he opens up and he talks. This is the only one that really is impactful. Really that whole Chasing Amy speech is just great.
Yeah. But yeah, I love this. This is definitely Kevin Smith's best and I think in all of our opinion. What else?
Please say Face Off. Please say Face Off. Please say Face Off.
Say Face Off. Then. Face Off. You've already said Face Off.
Do we have to talk about Face Off?
Yes.
Okay.
It's bonkers.
Yeah.
It is so bonkers.
Yeah.
There's nothing that makes sense about this.
No.
But John Travolta is chewing the fuck out of every scene, and Nicolas Cage is so over the top.
Yeah.
Everything. Playing himself, playing Travolta, playing himself.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I love it. I love it. I love the doves. I love the bullets. I love everything about this movie.
Might be John Woo's best American movie.
I think so, yeah.
Which is odd. It just goes to show how things get watered down when you come over to these shores and you have to go by
these parts.
Yeah, when you're used to being able to do what you want to do in your place of birth, and then you come over here and they're like, well, now you're dealing with corporations.
Yeah.
Deal with it, fucko.
Yeah.
But Face Off is probably his best one. He had done Broken Arrow, which is, piece of shit, and then Hard Target is a fun movie, but it's not by any means a great movie. But Face Off, yeah, it's batshit fun.
Yeah.
That's, what else can you say about it?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's not gonna. It's not good.
No.
But it is totally watchable.
Well,
really
since we're on this subject here, there's several in a row in 1997 you can talk about. Starship Troopers.
Yep.
Paul Verhoeven. Because we will be, chastised about calling him.
That's right,
Verhoeven. But Starship Troopers, he comes back with this one. Showgirls is not a good movie in any capacity. So this one, it comes out, and I think it sort of misled the public. And sort of
very
what it was,
much did.
It was supposed to be this big, giant alien bug, like Men in Black. Big, giant alien invasion movie.
How would you market it differently, though? Isn't that the only way that they could do it? How can you come out and say we are a subversive satire of that?
You can't.
If you want to make any money, you had to do it how they did it.
The way
they
did.
Fooled me. But yeah, I guess that's the only way they could have gone. It's like
I think the big. We'll probably talk about this movie next week, but The biggest time that ever happened to me was with the movie Snake Eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Snake Eyes had that trailer that I was like, I'm so goddamn intrigued in this. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, it's not really even all that. I mean, there's not really much to this, really. But Starship Troopers, it's really made to be a movie that they hope makes a bunch of money and then does what it does afterwards, which is gets a following afterwards for its satire and all that. Sometimes it's debatable satire.
I know. I don't think I can't say for sure, but it looks like a good majority of the cast has no idea that this is supposed to be satire. I mean, Casper Van Dien, God bless him, is just giving it his all, and that's his ceiling right there. Right. Denise Richards is really in there, but it's like, do you really know? Maybe Neil Patrick Harris did, but they look like they're approaching this as a traditional action movie.
But I would also counter with that: if you are thinking about doing a movie like this and you're going to cast your hot 90s actors in it and everything, you wouldn't tell them that, especially these actors or whatever. Maybe you don't tell them that. You just play it straight. I don't want you to know that it's satire. There's enough satire in it, like the stuff that's in RoboCop, the whole, this is why we fight type stuff that's going on in there, to make you think that there's something else going on. It is debatable though. It would be a really good, discussion for an hour to talk about whether it qualifies.
Yeah. You could also talk about one of the best all-time co-ed shower scenes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Are there a lot?
I don't know.
Crazily enough, back in 1997 when I was 20, I really wanted to see Denise Richards naked. And she didn't get naked in that.
I know.
And it was Wild Things where she decided that she was going to get naked.
Yeah. So you had to wait.
But Dina Meyer was good.
Yeah.
Also on this train of thought, The Devil's Advocate, which we talked about already.
About getting naked.
Yeah, we've talked about that a bunch, but it's another daffy ass movie. Anyway, let's go on to the next one.
I want to talk briefly about In and Out with Kevin Kline.
Yeah.
Ripped from the headlines, right? So Tom Cruise wins the Oscar for Philadelphia.
Tom Hanks
wins the Oscar for Philadelphia. Tom Cruise not actually in that movie.
No, he's not.
And Hanks thanks a drama teacher from earlier in his life who's gay, like his character. Well, somebody really smart said, what if in real life that guy wasn't actually gay?
Right.
And this actor just outed a guy who's straight. And that's this movie's premise. Kevin Kline is a straight guy. He's engaged to Joan Cusack. And Matt Dillon is the guy that wins the Oscar and thanks his former drama teacher who's gay. And then this small middle America town goes bonkers as everyone wants to know, are you gay? What's going on? And Tom Selleck shows up as this reporter who's trying to get to know him and eventually kisses Kevin Kline on the side of the road, right? When somebody he knows pulls up and he's like, I just ran into my friend here at the intersexual. I mean homosexual. I mean intersection.
Selleck playing totally against type because we've known him as Magnum P.I. and Quigley Down Under and all these type of characters, and he's playing a gay guy in this. In and Out is hilarious. Another movie from Frank Oz, who comes up from time to time on these things. But yeah, In and Out is a really funny movie because it's Kevin Kline sort of coming to terms as to what he really is and what he's really, has he been denying himself his entire life. I think the ending of this is, you're talking about endings that are ludicrous and everything. Yeah. This is one of the most ludicrous endings I've ever seen. Everybody standing up and saying that they're gay. But
I am Spartacus.
Yeah, pretty much. But a really funny and entertaining movie.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Also in 1997, a movie that didn't get much, not much of audiences or anything, but Gattaca was such a good movie.
Yeah.
It came from this director named Andrew Niccol. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Niccol.
Is it Niccol?
I'm pretty sure it's Niccol.
Because he goes on to write The Truman Show. Yeah. And then the movie Simone that Al Pacino was in. But Gattaca, man, talk about a movie that is really ahead of its time. Talking about, selecting exactly the perfect sperm egg combination to get the kids that you want.
Yeah.
Instead of but letting the natural selection take. And that's what this whole movie's an allegory for, by the way, because Ethan Hawke is a natural born kid and they don't think there's anything to him at all. But there's a reason why that sperm fertilizes that egg, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's because he does strive ahead of all the other millions. I love this movie so much, though. This is what introduced me to Jude Law, and Jude Law is excellent in this. Another great, unnominated performance, really, if you want to talk about it, but not in this year. You can't really get that, but man, so good.
Kind of setting up a type of performance that he continues with, the talented Mr. Ripley and these just very erudite, well-spoken, British people. You know?
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about Contact.
Yes.
Contact.
I love Contact.
We all love it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody in the world loves it.
Nope.
No.
In fact, I think it's a pretty divisive film.
Yep.
And it sat through the whole goddamn thing and it was their fucking father.
That's the reason why. That's the reason. That's the reason why it's divisive.
Yeah.
Because everything else leading up to it is amazing.
Oh, yeah. Based on a Carl Sagan novel who had the unique ability to explain quantum physics and aerospace and things like that to laymen.
Yeah.
And I think they killed it on this. They glossed over a lot of stuff from the book, but I think the right stuff from the book. And the scope of this and the performances I thought were really good.
Yeah, me too. It's really heady stuff, but it doesn't really ever feel like it, right? And I love Matthew McConaughey and Jodie Foster, James Woods. It's stocked with cast members that I love. So I don't know why I like it. I just like it.
Well, I think it sets everything up so well. The way they're like, okay, she comes up with all these numbers. She figures out the sequence and all this other stuff, figures out what it means. They set up this portal. And after all of that, unlike how in Fantastic Four, where we built the shuttle, we don't get to go to the moon.
Yeah.
They make it where Tom Skerritt, her boss, gets to go, and so they continually make her an underdog all the way through this. But there's this whole idea, oh wow, there's another species out there. They're trying to contact us. They're all doing that. That's always entertaining. It's always intriguing. And then they build this thing, and then of course it's sabotaged and everything. But then there's a scene in there that I used to walk in on all the time. You're talking about all time, had to go in and watch this, is when John Hurt is telling her about the second one. And when he's like, they still want an American to go. Do you want to take a ride?
I love that.
Yeah. And then all the stuff where she's in the thing, which we've done in outtakes a million times. That ship is so cool. It's
cool.
so cool.
Yeah.
And the way they built it, the way it works and everything, and all leading up to, yes, it's her goddamn father.
Yeah.
But it has a nice little twist at the end with James Woods and Angela Bassett there at the end, which always gives me chills when she talks about the tape that was made and everything. But I love Contact. This is Robert Zemeckis, who had come off of Forrest Gump, another movie where he had just, a director had come off one of their high points, and then they come out with their next movie and people are just like, it's not that movie.
Yeah, it's weird. Well, briefly, I want to talk about The Spanish Prisoner.
Yeah.
This is the same writer,
David Mamet,
as State and Maine, one of the banner movies for this podcast. This is not like State and Maine. This is not a straight comedy. This is not spoofing Hollywood. This is a drama and almost an intrigue mystery kind of film. You maybe have never seen Steve Martin in this kind of role before. Campbell Scott is basically this guy who's come up with this magic mojo formula thing, and there may or may not be some people trying to steal it from him by a huge long game con. I find this movie really enjoyable. I don't know how you feel about it.
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
Motherfuckers. All right. Well,
no, look, this is a movie that slipped through the cracks, was never able to find it afterwards.
Yeah.
I know it's good.
Yeah.
I believe you.
Yeah.
And he directed it too. David
yeah.
Mamet.
Okay, great. So I mentioned that. Move on.
But I would almost say, even without seeing it, recommend, because this is a movie that everybody loved. The critics were all over this.
It's really good.
And I know it's good. So
Well, the last time Jeremy sold us a movie, it worked out pretty well with
yes,
Locke.
yes, it did. Yeah, we're briefly going through all these. The Rainmaker we discussed. Francis Ford Coppola, I thought, made a real good comeback with this.
I like this movie a lot.
Yeah, I do too. It's really good. And Damon, Claire Danes coming up again.
That's my girl.
But yeah, that's a fun movie. Hercules.
Yeah.
Disney animation. Continue.
I'm on an island. I love Hercules.
Yeah, I think it's good.
I don't think most people like it.
I haven't seen it since it came out.
I think what appeals to me about Hercules is the music, because it's got this gospel vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Who put the gladiator, Hercules? And that just pulls me in and makes me smile all the way through. I used to do this great impression of Hercules singing Go the Distance.
Oh, yeah.
Not going to do it here, just like my Aladdin impression. But I used to have that one or two lines nailed down. I sounded just like him. But I'm not saying it's great. I just enjoy it.
James Woods is a great villain.
He is maybe the best Disney animated villain in the modern era, for sure.
Also, 1997, As Good as It Gets came out. This might be James L. Brooks' last good movie. Jack Nicholson's amazing in it.
You've never seen him before, and you have seen him since, but at that point, he had never played a character like that.
Yeah. It has some of the meanest dialogue he's ever written.
Sure.
When the woman at the desk says, "How do you write women so well?" He's like, "I think of a man, and I take away reason and accountability."
He's so great. And we could have talked about this last week, because he's severely OCD in this movie. Like, he has to use a brand new bar of soap every time he washes his hands. He's got like 82 locks on his door. Really fascinating character, anti-hero. And then you get Cuba Gooding Jr. and Helen Hunt, really good supporting cast. Everybody has a chance to shine, and by the end, there's so much warmth and a heart. You love that old rascal.
Well, it also continues this tradition of romantic comedies having these amazing lines to say to women and stuff. You make me want to be a better man. Yeah. So it's like, you had me at hello, all this stuff, or you complete me and all that. I Know What You Did Last Summer, continuing the horrible horror movies. Basically after Scream, everybody had to be sort of this, let's get a bunch of young kids and have them have all these
tight shirts.
Yeah. Them in their tight shirts.
Duvall directed The Apostle this year.
Oh, good movie.
Oh, yeah.
And if you go in to watch a drama called The Apostle starring Robert Duvall, you will not expect the ultra-violence that opens this movie. Because he basically commits an act of violence and then goes on the run from the law and goes way into the Deep South, forms his own church, gets on the radio preaching. I love this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys feel.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's really good.
It's just such a layered... Usually the movie gives us clergy that are just cookie cutters, right? They're just basically Jesus in human form. They're super awesome people. This is one of the most layered portrayals of a religious clergyman that I have ever seen. He's flawed. He's so flawed. But he wants to be good. He wants to fix it. And at the end, when they finally come and arrest him and they're driving off, and he's just so casual about it. He's accepted it long before it happened. And he's like, I thought you guys were driving Fords these days. So he's talking about the make and model of the cop car. Anyway, really good movie. Awesome.
Con Air came out. This was Nicolas Cage, sort of. This was after he made Leaving Las Vegas.
Come on, man.
I boo this movie with all the boos in my heart. I can't get past Nicolas Cage.
Put the bunny in
after
the bag.
he made Leaving Las Vegas and won the Oscar, The Rock, Face Off, and Con Air.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm going to cash in on this, baby.
Yep. Put the pedal to the metal.
That's right.
That's awesome.
We don't need to talk about that much more. The Full Monty came out in 1997.
Yeah.
Another
big hit.
That's a huge hit. Oh, my God. David Lynch came out with a movie that polarizes most people. It most people may hate it. I love it. Lost Highway came out in 1997.
One of the best soundtracks of the 90s.
Yeah, it's a weird movie, but man, I love when Robert Blake tells Bill Pullman, "I'm at your house right now," and Bill Pullman's like, "That's fucking crazy, man." The real movie that kept Scream going was Scream 2 came out that same December that Titanic did as well. Well, it was James Bond. I knew Tomorrow Never Dies. I think it was Tomorrow Never Dies came out, and Good Will Hunting. It was like a huge December.
Yeah,
like,
it was.
It wasn't just Titanic. It was Good Will Hunting and all these movies coming out. Spawn.
One movie I wanted to mention is one of my favorite comedies is Grosse Point Blank.
Oh, yeah. And we have talked about Grosse Point Blank a bunch, and it's well worth watching.
Yeah.
This is one of the best, this is one of the funniest movies you'll ever run into.
Yeah.
Because you did that, I'm going to go ahead and throw out The Man Who Knew Too Little.
Yes.
Which is, I think, sorely underseen Bill Murray.
Yes, it is.
This is really entertaining. He's almost at What About Bob levels of social cluelessness here. He's an American. He's gone over to visit his brother in England. His brother has a business deal going on, and so to get his goofy Bill Murray brother out of the way, he's bought him this spy experience where he's going to be approached by somebody. It's almost like The Game, really, when you think about it. But Bill Murray is so stupid. He goes out, and the very first thing that happens to him, he thinks is The Game, and he gets caught up in this real life spy intrigue thing. And I just there's a part at the end where he goes out a window and he's on the cliff, and they're shooting at him, and like a little bullet debris gets in his eye, and he's like, "Time out, because he thinks it's all an act, and he's like, "I got something in my eye, jack off." And just for the physical comedy of Bill Murray doing the Russian dance at the end, this movie is worth a watch.
Totally agree on that. I'll mention Kiss the Girls because we've mentioned Ashley Judd a bunch.
Yeah.
I've got a signed poster of Kiss the Girls in my house. Amistad was Spielberg's second movie of the year. He was trying to do that Jurassic Park Schindler's List 1-2 punch. Lost World has its problems. Amistad has its problems. Not the best of his career. Copland, good movie.
I like Copland.
Yeah. I love The Edge too. The Anthony Hopkins.
Man. I just saw
David
that a couple
Mamet
weeks
wrote
ago.
that too.
Yeah, David Mamet did write that.
Yeah. The Edge is great. The Postman came out. Air Force One, another big movie.
Get off my plane.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Known for that more than anything.
Another great Gary Oldman villain performance.
Yeah.
That was a huge hit, though. That made a shit ton of money.
It did. It was a big hit. It was, let me look at fifth that year. Fifth.
Yeah.
We talked about Grosse Point Blank. There were 2 high school reunion movies that came out. Romy and Michelle's high school reunion, which I actually like. I think it's an enjoyable
Mira
movie.
Sorvino's follow-up to her Oscar performance.
Yeah. It's actually a pretty fun movie. Howard Stern's Private Parts.
Yeah.
This is Paul Giamatti at his fucking best.
Goddamn motherfuckers.
You goddamn motherfuckers. This I could make a really strong argument that he should have gotten an Oscar nomination for that. Even though, if you don't like the movie and you don't like Howard Stern, Paul Giamatti is a fucking amazing.
Yeah,
in that.
he is.
Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil.
Yep.
Volcano and Dante's Peak had that thing going on. Orgasmo.
We should probably mention like the Ice Storm and the Sweet Hereafter.
Yeah, I'll eventually get to it. But Wag the Dog.
I love that movie.
Yeah, I do too. Great. Open Your Eyes, which is the movie that would become Vanilla Sky later.
Open Your Eyes.
Conspiracy Theory. 2 Girls and a Guy. A lot of people love that. The Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, it's great. It's James Toback is one of those, like, he's very improvisational in his shooting style, and he cast Robert Downey Jr. in basically every movie he makes, but this is probably his best, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, the Ice Storm you mentioned, Ang Lee, another. Oh, this is such a good movie.
The vibe, like the mood of this movie. God.
Yeah. I highly recommend watching that. Oh, The Sweet Hereafter.
Yeah.
Good God, The Sweet Hereafter. You know what? I'm going to get past all these other lists here. There's going to be like 500 movies you should have mentioned. Deconstructing Harry, which is a fun little Woody Allen movie, came out in 1997. I think we're ready to vote, at least.
This should be interesting.
It will be. So our order today is Barrett, Jeremy, and Chris.
I have no idea what's going to happen.
Me neither. I am going to vote for Good Will Hunting.
Wow.
It had a huge impact on me. I saw it actually overseas, which was a weird experience because when they made the Ted Kaczynski joke, it crickets. And I was the only one that was laughing. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's right. I'm in Wales. I love it. The performances are locked in. I have watched this movie more, and I've watched all of these movies a lot. I've watched this movie more than any other this year, and that's my pick.
All right, good pick. I can't criticize it, but I'm going LA Confidential.
Mm-hmm.
There is a scope here that by the end of the movie, I feel like my real world will be thrown off if they don't fix it and solve the problem within the movie. Like that's how big everything feels. Like it almost feels like this movie's outcome could impact real life.
Yeah.
And there's not a bad performance in here at all. Everyone is expertly cast, and every time I watch it, I'm just like, well, I'll just watch for a few minutes. Fuck, I lost 3 hours.
Yeah. We're gonna go another round, guys.
Awesome.
I'm gonna go with Jackie Brown on this because I have seen this one above all the movies in 1997, more than any of the ones that we've talked about. And really, honestly, that doesn't mean that it's the best. It just means that, to me, I can get into this just anywhere and enjoy it. Doesn't matter. I think LA Confidential, you can't wander. I don't know if you could wander into this movie about an hour and a half in and be like, whatever. That's not really the criteria. But I think I've seen Jackie Brown more than these movies, and I continually go to that. And if I had those three in front of me, I would always pick it.
Yeah. That's a good point. Well, I'm hoping to not fuck this further, but my second pick is Boogie Nights.
Okay. Boogie Nights is great.
Interesting that you chose "fuck this further" as a phrase with Boogie Nights.
Yeah. No, Paul Thomas Anderson. I think you're right. I think this is There Will Be Blood is way up there, but this is probably my favorite one of his, too.
Yeah, and I like Pulp Fiction. I like Jackie Brown more than Pulp Fiction. I like Boogie Nights more than Jackie Brown. My second pick is Boogie Nights.
Transitive logic. Yeah.
And if only for the God Only Knows montage.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, I don't know that there's an example of better filmmaking in existence. Like that 3-minute section is perfect.
It's gorgeous.
And I just love this movie. And so it's Boogie Nights. So it's up to you, buddy. Where are we going to go from here?
Well, what would happen? Now, I already have my pick locked and loaded, so I'm not letting this influence me. But if I were to say Boogie Nights,
that's the winner.
That would be the winner. But if I were to say LA Confidential is mine, I think that makes that the winner.
Yeah, because it had a first round vote.
Yeah, it has a first round
and a second.
Yeah,
and then
so LA Confidential is my pick.
And
it's for everything that Jeremy just said there. This movie, I didn't know movies could be made like this when 97 rolled around. This movie's just so fucking good.
Yeah.
I can't recommend it enough. So that's my pick.
All right, we have a winner.
That's it. LA Confidential wins. Yeah.
Okay, so our topic today is talking about people who were at the top of their game.
I'm in my prime.
Now my shit together is my shit together.
I'm peaking, Kevin. It's my time now.
Nobody does it better.
The eras in which they were the top actors, directors, composers, the like. We've talked about it. I'm going to go through some easy ones first before we get into this and everything, because I wrote these guys down, but I was like, we've probably talked about these guys a lot, so I don't want to hash this out on the podcast again. Just to go over it though, we've talked about John Hughes before. John Hughes had a period of time where he was arguably at the top of his game, 1984 to 1987, where he did 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, all that. Unreal run. We talked about Rob Reiner ad nauseum on this. He had a stretch from 84 to 95 where he came out with Spinal Tap, Stand By Me, American President, Few Good Men, Princess Bride, all these movies. So he was at the top of his game from 84 to 95. Spielberg, we talked about a lot about that in the earlier podcast because he had come out with Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T., Raiders of the Lost Ark. So that's an example of what we're going for here. When were these people at the height of their powers? And Jeremy, you want to go on with this?
All right, I'll kick it off. I'm going to kick it off with somebody related to who you just talked about, Mr. John Williams.
Yes.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
John Williams is great. And nobody we're going to talk about today are we saying the stuff they did outside this era is bad.
Yeah.
No, we're just saying this stretch run might be them at the top of their game. And I literally wrote down in a row, this fucker did Jaws, Star Wars, Close Encounters, Superman, Raiders, Empire, and E.T. all inside 7 years' time.
Yeah, how in the fuck?
Those are all
That's
iconic
insane.
scores.
That's
I actually
insane.
played this game last night in my head where I thought I might throw it over and go, sing Raiders or sing Superman. We'd all be able to do it. Those are all so freaking iconic.
You know what would happen, though, is we would confuse the Superman and the Star Wars scores. Because
Yeah,
that
yeah.
happens all the time. He uses the same instruments and all that, and it's like, how's that go? It goes, na, 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 na. And no, that's Star Wars, man. That's Star Wars.
So I just feel like, because they're all so iconic. I remember when I was younger, before I even really got into film, it blew my mind that the same guy had come up with the Star Wars, Superman, and Indiana Jones themes. Because those were the three biggest theme musics of my childhood.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't, and those are the most played scores from movies of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even close. Maybe the Star Trek theme, but
Yeah.
not even that.
Yeah.
I mean, and then he wrote Home Alone, and then he wrote,
Yeah.
all these other things. It's just,
Yeah, but you're in that era, like you're saying, like how does a guy just, I mean, how does he come up with all these things all at once? I'm sure he had some people kind of help him out with that, but I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
they're
that's
also individualized too. Yeah, Star Wars and Superman. I know you said it facetiously, but they do have a lot of overlap. But the Indiana Jones theme song or theme music and E.T. theme music are very different from Star Wars.
Jaws is nothing like any of the rest of them.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what's always awesome, by the way. This is somewhat getting off topic, but like John Williams, like when you find out that he's done a score that you like that you didn't know was him, like he did JFK and he did, I knew he did Catch Me If You Can, but that's a completely different thing that he had done
I love that score.
before and everything. I love that. But yeah, they are pretty much different all through that era.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Next up.
I'm going to go with a classic guy here, Frank Capra.
Oh yeah.
This guy I realized looking at Frank Capra that I need to learn more about Frank Capra. Because the guy did, so his biggest one was 1934. It Happened One Night. This is this is what starts off this era that I'm talking about. It Happened One Night was a big movie. Mr. Deeds Goes to Town came a couple years later. Then he did stuff that I haven't seen before, like Lost Horizon, but I know You Can't Take It With You is one of those movies that people always talk about, great all-time classics. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington came out in 1939, so he's made a lot by this point, but he's not done because then he does he goes to war and does these Why We Fight documentaries.
Oh.
He does like a load of these things basically for the military. Like that's basically his career during World War II is to make these, I'm supposing, I don't know, he says they're not propaganda, but propaganda type movies and everything. In between all of that, though, he does Arsenic and Old Lace.
God, I love that.
Great movie with Cary Grant.
I did that play in college, actually.
Oh, really?
I played the goofy cop who's a writer who keeps wanting to show his play to the playwright. My mom, thank heavens, showed me this movie when I was a teenager. And had so much love for it that just rubbed off on me. It's probably my favorite Capra film.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. So good. And I remember like stumbling on this and I was like, okay, I'll give this a shot. And then you're just like transfixed.
Yeah.
All the way
Cary
through.
Grant, God, the
He's
faces
so
he makes in
good.
this movie.
Oh, he's so good.
He's a cartoon.
Yeah. So he does that in between all these documentaries and everything like that. Then he caps it off with the movie that everybody knows him for, It's a Wonderful Life. It came out in 1946. I don't know of 1934 to 1946 must have been just, I don't know, what was going through the water with Frank Capra at that point.
And Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah, Jimmy Stewart. Yeah. I mean, the guy... you look at these credits and he's like, it's like, there's like multiple, like he did this all in 1 year type stuff. And it's just, I mean, that's how just ridiculously prolific, you know, and so many good movies came out of it and everything. So that's my first one.
Nice. I'm glad that you guys picked things other than actors, because I'm going to pick an actor on this. But when you think of an actor like entering his prime, you can think of him like an NBA player. Like you can see LeBron entering his prime, and then you can just enjoy it. Like you'll never see anything like this, or Michael Jordan or something like that. And that happened to me with Daniel Day-Lewis because there was a point in time, and we may still be on the close to that, where you'd just watch whatever he would do because he was that good. He was so much better at acting than anybody else. But starting with, and you could see him entering his prime when he was doing like My Left Foot and stuff like that. The Unbearable Lightness of Being, which is a great underseen movie. But he really started hitting it out of the park with The Last of the Mohicans in my mind. So that was 1992. And then he starts doing The Age of Innocence, In the Name of the Father, which was an unbelievable performance, The Boxer. And then if there's another notch to be taken up, he goes into Gangs of New York, which is a whole different level. And then he takes that up another notch and does There Will Be Blood. And so that's a range that just pure acting, and he wasn't in the tabloids. It wasn't, dating supermodels. He may have dated supermodels. We didn't know about it. But he was just, every time he was on camera, he crushed it. Yeah. And, he did Lincoln afterwards, and, people loved that performance and everything. I didn't like that movie all that much. But just capping it off with There'll Be Blood is just an amazing run.
Yeah, this is a guy that always transforms. He's a method actor, so it's a lot of this is like, you gotta call me by my character name and all sort of type of stuff. He's won 3 Oscars.
Yeah.
And he arguably should have won a 4th one for Gangs of New York.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't get it because I'm pretty sure there was a lot of politics during that year about Chicago and like people not liking Scorsese for whatever reason, which I've never been able to figure out. But yeah, he is amazing. Like everything he does, he goes full throttle into it.
It's great
and
to watch.
The Gangs of New York thing, the funny story that always came out of that was he was always playing Eminem and his headphones, getting ready to go out there and do his role. And everything.
Well, and there's that picture of him when he was shooting Lincoln in like some cafe in town, completely dressed as Lincoln. Like he left the set and went to get lunch, and he's still Lincoln. And I love that for some people, that's what gets them to the level of artistry that they need. I just think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
All right, so Steven Soderbergh, great director in general, got a few potholes in his resume. The Girlfriend Experience bored me to tears. But in researching this, I was going to IMDb and typing in big names and then scrolling through looking for a run that didn't have a misfire. And I was surprised how many misfires I could find on people like Tom Cruise or Spielberg doesn't even have a huge run except for very early. So Soderbergh surprised me when I realized that in a row, here are 5 films he made in a row: Out of Sight, The Limey, Aaron Brockovich, Traffic, and Ocean's 11.
Yep.
God damn.
Yep.
That's solid.
That is a man at the top of his game right there, right? After this, he's going to make Ocean's 12, not as good. He goes back to the Sex, Lies, and Videotape thing with Full Frontal. Not as good. Girlfriend Experience, not. But this run, those 5 films are all A's or A pluses.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I didn't realize it at the time that I was living it and experiencing it, but that was his prime. That was his top of his game.
Actually had Traffic and Aaron Brockovich in the same year.
Yeah.
Out of Sight is amazing. And I would also, we'll talk about this movie later, but The Limey is such a good movie.
Terrence Stamp is so badass.
Yes, he is. But then, to cap off all that with Ocean's 11, which is as fun a blockbuster movie that you can watch. I mean, that's a really solid choice right there.
Yeah.
Yay
nice
for
job.
me.
Nice job.
Victory.
That's right. It's funny. You mentioned Tom Cruise. I'm going to talk a little bit of Tom Cruise here. Tom Cruise has had a career that has spanned from the early 80s up until now, and he's had a lot of different eras, I would say. And I was trying to think of what would be his top of his game, because he became a star with Top Gun, really. Risky Business was sort of his kind of intro into being a star, but Top Gun really is the one that sort of solidified it. And then suddenly everything Tom Cruise came out with, people had to go watch and everything. So he had that period of time where I think almost every movie he was in made $100 million or more. Like it was all the way up until like, I can't remember what year it was that it finally broke it. It might have been Eyes Wide Shut that actually broke it. But I found a little spot from 1996 to 2001 where Tom Cruise, I believe, was at the top of his game. Now there are some sore spots here and there for Tom Cruise in that spot, but in 1996 he does Mission Impossible and he does Jerry Maguire, which I think is like his sort of the first time. I mean, he had done Born on the 4th of July and all that, but Jerry Maguire was, I thought, the first time he really did a complete like performance and everything, and it was for a while. And this was a year, by the way, he had done that Interview with a Vampire before that, sort of put even though it was a big hit, it kind of put a little dent in him a little bit, because people were like, "You're not Lestat, man. You're not my Lestat." But he did those, and I feel like he sort of started taking things a little bit more seriously at this point, because then Eyes Wide Shut comes right after that. It of course takes him forever to make it, because Kubrick takes forever to make it. He didn't come out with a major movie from 96 to 99. It was Eyes Wide Shut.
That's crazy.
And he is amazing in Eyes Wide Shut, but I think his best performance is in Magnolia.
Oh yeah.
And he takes the he sort of learns his the things he does there from the pickup artist community.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I've seen Cruise like really like vulnerable in a strong role. Like, Born on the 4th of July, he's kind of like, we always have to include that as part of his like great body of work. But in this period of time, man, I think Magnolia, he's just as good as he's ever been.
He's electric in that movie.
He's so good. And then he does Mission Impossible 2, not a good movie, but another bad John Woo movie, by the way. But then he does Vanilla Sky. Now, Vanilla Sky is polarizing.
Yeah, where do you stand on it?
I love Vanilla Sky.
I love Vanilla Sky too.
You guys are both looking at me now. I liked it a lot.
Nice.
I just liked the original better. And I didn't think it was necessary, but I love it.
Yeah.
And he is terrific.
Oh, he's so good at it.
He is absolutely terrific in that.
Yeah.
That shows every side of him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like this is the period of time that Tom Cruise is at his very, very best. Now, and then after that, he does stuff like Minority Report, which I love. I adore Minority Report. The Last Samurai, I haven't seen that in forever.
It's great. He's awesome in it.
Yeah. And then Collateral, where he's playing a bad guy.
Yeah.
And I said tonight to 2001, really I should go to 2004.
Yeah.
Because Collateral is another like role he had never done before. He's a evil dude in Collateral. Awesome. And then after that, he's back to sort of like doing the big blockbuster movies, and they're not all great. It's and plus around this era when he does War of the Worlds and Mission Impossible, it's actually Mission Impossible 3. 2006 was the year that everybody was like, "Oh, Tom Cruise, the Scientology, so fucking crazy. You don't like that guy anymore." Jumping on the couch, even though he didn't really do that. He didn't do that. He just jumped on the couch. Didn't jump up and down on the couch. He may not even done that. I think there was like
he jumped on it.
But there was a YouTube video that sort of made it seem like he did all these things that he didn't really do in that Oprah Winfrey interview. Anyway,
he was, at the very least, way too far over the top.
Right, he was
about
way over the top.
Well, wouldn't you be?
No, I would be the right amount of over the top.
I know I've been over the top by watching.
Chris has jumped on some couches before.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think that's his era right there. That little pocket. Yeah. Even though he was a major star before that era, and he's continued it, he's finally gotten back to what we like about him in these Mission Impossible movies, the Jack Reacher and all this other stuff, and Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah,
you could almost argue he's going through another peak period right now because he's doing such great work now.
Especially if you throw in Tropic Thunder.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing where he's been such built into our culture for so long. It's almost like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan wasn't always the peak greatest. It's those years from 95, 96, 97, 98 where he was just outstanding. He was otherworldly. It's Tiger Woods in his heyday. So getting to that point is really fun. So I'm finna blow your mind. I'm finna blow your mind because I'm gonna give you 2 primes with one person, and that's Woody Allen.
Yeah.
Oh.
Woody Allen from 73 to 86. Then he takes a little bit of a drop, but then he goes back into his prime from 89 to 95. And you could make an argument that he does a third prime, but I'm not going to talk about that.
Right. I know what you're talking about.
But from 73 to 86, here's our run here. Sleeper, Love and Death, Annie Hall, Interiors, which we talked about a little bit, Manhattan, Stardust Memories, Midsummer Night's Sex Comedy, Zelig, Broadway Danny Rose, Purple Rose of Cairo, and Hannah and Her Sisters.
Yeah.
That is a huge run of beautiful movies. And they all have the Woody Allen aesthetic, but they're not the same.
There are a lot of inventive Woody Allen movies in there. Like, there's some that are they're sort of taken off on older movies. Like Stardust Memories is a very like retro type of movie, but it's done in Woody Allen style. Zelig is one of my favorites of that group that you mentioned there. I mean, outside of Annie Hall, Manhattan, and all that, Zelig is it's just a quirky ass great movie.
Well, look at Sleepers. Sleepers completely innocuous thing. It's like, what the hell is this? And you go back and watch it. It's awesome. It's fantastic. So after that, he has a drop. He does Radio Days. He does September. He does Another Woman, all of which, I'm not really a huge fan of. But then coming back in 1989, Crimes and Misdemeanors kicks this off. Alice, Shadows and Fog, which some people don't like, but Husbands and Wives, Manhattan Murder Mystery, Bullets Over Broadway, and Mighty Aphrodite.
Yeah.
God damn, that is two anybody would kill for like half of those primes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he kills it. And then again, if you want to count the times that now he goes to Europe, starting at Match Point and then Vicky Cristina Barcelona and Midnight in Paris and all that stuff.
Which is another good
That's a great run too. So this guy just keeps reinventing himself. And say what you will about all the stuff that kind of surrounds that. His movies around this era are him at the top of his game. And they're amazing.
Well, what's funny is your second era there with Manhattan Murder Mysteries, Bullets Over Broadway, and Mighty Aphrodite. Those are my three favorite Woody Allen movies.
Yeah.
And so that's probably my preferred era. But you're right. He's had more than one time at the top of his game. Yeah. Flirted with a third. I mean, who knows what he'll do?
He's one of these directors. I was looking at people like Scorsese right off the bat to see what their stretches were. And people like him, like Scorsese and Woody Allen and everything, they're such good directors. They come out with lots of stuff. So a lot of times they'll come out with a lot of things that aren't exactly the best or whatever. Scorsese is one of the interesting one to look at because he never really had like an era where he came out with like 5 straight slam bang movies that were amazing. Mm-hmm. Like you can argue about some of the ones that he came out with in the 70s outside of Taxi Driver, and Mean Streets, but like, there's not really a lot in there where you're going, yeah, man, New York, that's my shit. and the king of comedy, man, that's a fucking great, I love the king of comedy and everything, but it's in between all that Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, and then Raging Bull. There's like all this other stuff that's in the middle there that's kind of like, Woody Allen does that all the time. Yeah. He'll go on 5-year stretches where there's not a good movie. And then he'll come out with something great 3 years in a row, and then it'll be back down again. He's always inventing and trying to make, he's trying to make something good every time. And he may not. I think he loves just doing. I think he just loves being a director.
Yeah, and I mean, even his misses though aren't bad. You mentioned Deconstructing Harry today. I love that movie. I do too. I don't think it's up in like the top of his game. Yeah. I mean, I love Celebrity. I thought that
Celebrity,
was a fun
which
one.
has the one of the best all-time cameos with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh yeah, and Kenneth Branagh playing the Woody Allen character.
Yep.
But so even his lesser stuff I like, and some of those in those runs are relatively lesser. But man, what a run.
Yeah, absolutely.
So top of their game, I'm going to choose somebody who's never been off his game. Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Right.
Oh, nice.
I don't think he's ever had a bad performance.
Probably not.
He ever has. But here I'm going to list for you what I think is his prime, him at the top of his game. And it's not just because of the quality of the movies and the quality of his performance, but also the variety of the kinds of characters he's playing in this stretch. So all in a row, he did Magnolia, Talented Mr. Ripley, State and Maine, Almost Famous.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, Almost Famous, he nearly steals this movie with like 3 scenes that are phone calls. State and Maine, he's playing this do-gooder, wide-eyed, optimist writer. And in Magnolia, he's playing this, at this point, probably tortured nurse who's looking after this guy. And it's probably the most hellish existence you could imagine.
Yeah.
But he's so dutiful in his job that he clearly cares about humanity and death with dignity, if you will. And then you have Talented Mr. Ripley, where he's kind of the savvy, smart-ass American traveler guy.
He's wise to Matt Damon from the start.
Yeah, he is. Damn it. And so, I don't think he's ever been bad.
Yeah.
I could talk about Mission Impossible 3, where if he's not in that movie, I might not watch that movie. I could talk about any era of his, but that run right there, I think, represents him being at the very, very top.
Yeah. And
that's an excellent point.
If you ever want to, Magnolia is one of those where there's parts of performances a lot of times just stay with you all the time, and the part where he's on the phone trying to get
the porno mags,
he's going through the porno mags, he's trying to get Frank TJ Mackey on the phone and all that. Watch that entire sequence of him being on the phone trying to get this guy, and he goes through the gamut of emotions on it because well, first off, and just anything with him on the phone during that sequence, because he's calling about getting the magazines, right? And he throws all this other stuff in there to make it look like he's not really just in it for the porno, and they're like, and the girl on the other end of the line is like, "Is that all you want?" And he's like, "Yeah, what?" But him trying to get him on the phone, he goes through all this stuff, and finally he has to he breaks down. He's like, his dad is dying. He needs to see his son for the last time, all that, and the guy's like, there's a guy on the other end of the line who says, "Well, my mom died of cancer last year." He's like, oh my God, that's such a horrible disease. He's such a caretaker. He has to take, he has to consider that. But, okay. Matthew McConaughey, 2011 to 2014. This was very recent.
Okay.
A lot of people credit True Detective and Dallas Buyers Club as the reason why McConaughey became McConaughey during that time, but really it was the Lincoln Lawyer that sort of brought him back. He had, and a few years before this, he had done Tropic Thunder, so it was kind of like, okay, maybe McConaughey's kind of coming back, but then he did Ghost of Girlfriend's Past, that just fucking blew it, nuked it. But Lincoln Lawyer is is the movie that got him back. And then you guys talked about Bernie. I've not seen this movie. He's in that. But then there's Killer Joe, which is a movie that I actually don't like Killer Joe, but I love Matthew McConaughey in it.
Yeah.
And then he does the movie Mud, which is the one where he's got the kids coming and giving him stuff. He's a fugitive and all that.
Yeah.
Such a good movie. And then he does Magic Mike. And then Dallas Buyers Club gets him in Wolf of Wall Street, and then True Detective. Now, there are some things in there, a couple of things, I've never seen The Paperboy. I don't know what the fuck that is.
Oh, with Nicole Kidman.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
But that's the Lincoln Lawyer is really what got him back into this thing, and he had that stretch there. Now he's getting back into some movies we don't really want you to see you in that or whatever. But
the McConaissance.
Yeah, the McConaissance.
Yeah, he had a huge one.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm going to pick something it's a little bit outside the norm. For whatever reason, when we thought about the top of our game, I thought about John Cusack. John Cusack is another one of those that really never delivers a bad performance, Doesn't ever seem like he's mailing things in, and, he's got some incredible roles, and then even his lesser stuff like 1408 or Identity or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's always charming, he's always relatable, and so, but he's got a stretch between 1997 and 2000 that he is really, really on point. He released 5 movies in 1997.
Holy shit!
Yeah, he was in 1997. He was in Grosse Pointe Blank, Con Air, Chicago Cab, Anastasia, and Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. And all of those, aside from, I don't know what Chicago Cab is, but all the other ones are fun. I know you don't like Con Air, but That's a good run right there. But then he goes on to do The Thin Red Line in 1998 and talk about...
Of course, everybody did The Thin Red Line.
Talk about a cast in that thing. That's going to be crazy. He's in Pushing 10, which I think is a very underrated
I love Pushing 10
movie. I think that's a great one where he's a air traffic controller. He's in Cradle Will Rock, which I talked about a zillion years ago, which is a really good movie. Then he starts doing Being John Malkovich, which was just a bonkers movie. And then he caps it off with High Fidelity, which is maybe... If you look back on his career, maybe that's one of the performances that he's going to be known best for. Besides,
if
the
there's
early
any
stuff
justice,
of,
it will be.
Yeah, maybe besides the Lloyd Dobler character and Say Anything.
Yeah.
But those two, High Fidelity and Say Anything. But that's a terrific run. I mean, he's in great movies. When he isn't something that's a little bit off the beaten path, like Pushing 10, which is not a straightforward comedy at all.
No.
He really sells it, and he's got quite a range on that, So he's got a really, really good run there, kind of late in his career, relatively.
Yeah. He'd done a lot of stuff in the 80s and the early 90s and everything. And then Grosse Point Blank is where he actually helped write the screenplay on that, and High Fidelity as well. With a bunch of his buddies, and those two movies are perfect. You just go back and you can watch those back to back. Those are excellent. But some of those movies in '97 are a little questionable, like Anastasia and
that's an art.
And even Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil isn't like it's kind of but after that, Grosse Point Blank and all that stuff that you talked about after that, amazing shit. All of those are good. So we ready for some Q&A?
Let's do a Q.
Yeah.
I will give you an A.
Question.
I got something to say. I want the truth.
I am listening.
Quick reminder, go to our subreddit, reddit.com/r/cinemasins, and there's a weekly question thread that you can add to. You can also hit us up on Twitter at Cinemasins, or on SoundCloud, of course, where you're maybe listening to this episode. Even if you listen on iTunes or Spotify, comment on SoundCloud. If you got any questions, we will get to them. We've only got time for one question today, but it is a good one. What are your favorite foreign language movies? Jeremy, you want to start?
I'll start, because my very favorite is Life is Beautiful, which we briefly mentioned, and I held off until now. Roberto Benigni, I'd never seen him in anything. He was already a movie star, director in Italian film, but I'd never seen anything he'd done. This is, I think, the first American audiences in general ever got to see him. The woman that's playing his wife in the movie, I'm pretty sure is his wife in real life.
Yeah.
The kid that plays their son might even be their real son. It's so charming. This is the first time I'd ever seen anyone infuse charm and romance and laughter into a concentration camp style setting in a way that didn't feel super disrespectful.
Yeah.
So this is, that scene in Schindler's List where they're in the barracks and they're all being forced to run around naked. This is that kind of environment. Only he's trying to keep his son from being scared and being afraid. And so he keeps telling his son that this is all a game, and we just have to play the game right, and everything will be okay. And it's heartbreaking. It's sweet. I love the way he calls his wife Principessa, which is not her name. He's calling her princess. I love the way you say Joshua in Italian, je suis. Everything about this movie is good. That little kid with his wide eyes is so freaking cute. I want to strangle him, which only makes it even worse. I just love this movie, and it came out right around, I think it hit American theaters in 98.
Yes, it did. Because it actually got
Ryan
because it got Best Picture nomination in 1988.
And so to have this 1-2 punch for Saving Private Ryan and then Life is Beautiful, two completely different looks at World War II, both valid in their approaches. And of course, Jacob the Liar will come out later trying to do the same thing that Life is Beautiful did, and Robin Williams, bless his heart, can't come close to the magic. And then, of course, Roberto Benigni at the Oscars was so hilarious because he's just so effusive and complimentary.
Jumps up on
and
a seat.
Yeah.
Runs down the aisle.
Yeah. So that's my pick. I have watched it several times.
Try not crying at the end of Life is Beautiful.
Oh, God.
Try not.
I showed it to my wife.
I dare you.
Yeah. My wife was so mad at me at the end of that movie. And she loved it, but she did not see that coming.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of should, though, given the circumstances.
But I'm talking about not only tears of sadness, but tears of joy. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those type of movies where it's like it's one of those that just like oh, that's sad. And then by the end of it, there's that sort of the bittersweet type of
Yeah.
ending where it ends on that whatever. And it's like, you know, you leave that one affected, man. You can't walk straight after that.
Yeah,
movie.
seriously.
I have a few, and I always have to juggle between these three: City of God, Cinema Paradiso, and Amelie. All three of those, I have to juggle between them as far as what's my favorite ones. You know, Cinema Paradiso, it kind of funny. You bring up Life is Beautiful. Here's Cinema Paradiso is another Italian movie. Frank Capra earlier, an Italian-American director. I mean, the Italians, man, they're killing it.
Yeah.
They're killing it. But I'm going to, if I had to pick one, I'm going to go City of God because that movie's fucking amazing. So, that's mine.
You know what I just realized?
What?
I should have said Apocalypto.
Oh,
I just don't classify that as a foreign language film because it's like Mayan or whatever.
yeah.
And sorely underrated.
Oh yeah, I've
Yeah.
never seen. I feel like a lot of people just never
talk
watched it.
talk about a movie that didn't get its fair shake because the person behind it did so many stupid things.
Yeah.
But it's such a good movie.
Yeah, go on, Barrett. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
One of my favorite ones that came out and actually got remade by David Fincher and, to pretty wide acclaim. But the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is a terrific movie.
Yeah, it is.
This is where you get Noomi Rapace is plays Elizabeth Salander. Of course, the book in the trilogy by Stieg Larsson was just enormous. I mean, everybody read this book, and they were looking for the Swedish version of it, which came out in 2009 and it got remade in 2011. And it's really great. It's really great. The best of these foreign movies, and I know people are listening in different countries, and us Americans think, oh well, everything revolves around us. But when you watch a foreign language movie and you just stop noticing the subtitles, it just is. But this is an awesome movie. I mean, the characters get along really well. The story is really, really great. Even though it should be the slowest story and the slowest movie ever, it is filled with action and just nuance
Great mystery.
and everything. It is a great mystery. And the original cast that plays this, the guy who plays Blomqvist, we'll see if I said that correctly, Sweden, but it is really great. And their relationship is actually a little bit more believable for me than the American version.
Yeah, and the American version has its it's good, but it ain't this
No,
one.
it's not.
Yeah.
And I was looking forward to it, even though I liked this whole trilogy, because they did the whole trilogy
Yeah, they did.
in
They did.
Sweden. I was really looking forward because David Fincher, and Daniel Craig and everybody. So, and they did a good job, but yeah, again,
I saw all three of those at the Belcourt, and they're just all excellent. I don't remember. See, and yeah, we're going to mispronounce all the names, and we're sorry, Sweden. I don't know if it's Stieg Larsson or Stieg Larsson.
Oh, yeah.
I think I've heard it both ways, but fuck it. I don't think he lived to see these movies.
No, he didn't.
And that's unfortunate because those are all really well done.
I think it's funny that character has been played by Noomi and Rooney.
Yeah, it has. Until someone tells us we're mispronouncing, Noomi, and it's supposed to be Naomi.
Noomi.
Noomi.
Verhoeven.
That is going to be the SinCast for this week. Continue going to SoundCloud and telling us what you think. And so this is Chris Atkinson, Jeremy Scott, and Barrett Scher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit Cinemasins.com.
She's a ghost, but there's a part where she takes over Robert Downey Jr.'s body. And of course, Robert Downey Jr. is awesome in this movie because he has to physically be Charles Grodin and Alfre Woodard and then Keira Sedgwick as they each take over his body. He does a great job. But anyway, in this one moment, he's trying to get backstage at the B.B. King concert. And it's Alfre Woodard. She's like, "You want me to get loud? I will get loud." But it's Robert Downey Jr. saying it as a sassy black lady. It's hilarious.
I was just about to write on the top of their game thing. The only reason I didn't put Robert Downey Jr. down was that I felt like I needed to see a couple of these other movies in the era before I brought it up. But I was going to say 1991 to 1994 for Robert Downey Jr. because he had Soap Dish, he had Chaplin, he had Heart and Souls, which I still need to see, and Natural Born Killers all came out, and he was really good in all those. And of course, we all know him as Iron Man and all this stuff. He's Sherlock Holmes and everything he's done since he had made his comeback. But that was his era right there.
Oh yeah. Barrett is a fucker. Barrett is a fucker. Barrett is a fucker. Barrett is a fucker. What do you think about that? I just wrote one song in the bank.
Let's lay down some tracks.